I woke up to the kind of silence that doesn't feel peaceful. It feels wrong. No humming of the shower, no clinking of cups in the kitchen, just this heavy, stale, quiet pressing down on the room. Her side of the bed was cold. Not she just got up to grab coffee cold, but empty. The blanket was folded back neatly, which she never did. My first thought was, maybe she left early for work, but that didn't fit. When I opened the closet, that's when my stomach twisted. Half. Her clothes? Gone. Hangers swaying slightly like they'd just been moved. The faint scent of her perfume, the one she wore when we first started dating, still hung in the air. Sweet, familiar, and suddenly foreign. I tried telling myself she'd taken things to the dry cleaner. Or maybe she was reorganizing. But then I saw it. A small folded note on the kitchen counter, right next to my untouched mug. I recognized her handwriting instantly, looping, neat, almost playful. I picked it up, half smiling, thinking it might say something like "Gone to brunch with the girls. Love you" instead. Upgrading to someone younger and better in bed? Just stood there. Reading it once, twice, 3 times, the words didn't make sense. Like my brain refused to process them. I actually laughed under my breath, this short, humorless sound. Was this some sick joke? Was she testing me? The coffee machine beeped in the background, a little reminder that my morning was supposed to be normal. I grabbed the cup without tasting it, my hands trembling. The note crumpled in my fist before I even realized I was doing it. And that was it. The first 5 minutes of the day, and my life had already split in two before, after. It's strange how your brain works after something like this. One moment, I'm standing in the kitchen, gripping that note like it might burn me, and the next, I'm somewhere else entirely. Back when life felt solid. I'm in the old apartment kitchen, a Sunday morning. She's in one of my hoodies, flipping pancakes with that half smile she'd get when she caught me staring at her. The smell of coffee fills the air, and the sunlight is spilling across the counter. We're joking about something I can't even remember what, but I can still hear her laugh. That laugh used to be my favorite sound in the world. We were the kind of couple that made plans, weekend getaways, bucket lists. We'd talk about trips we couldn't afford like they were already booked: Paris, Venice, little beach towns we saw in travel blogs. She always made it sound like we'd get there together, and she was charming. God, she knew how to light up a room. People liked her instantly. I liked her instantly. It felt unshakable, like we'd built something no one could touch. But here's the thing. Looking back now, there were moments. Tiny cracks. Like the way she started checking her phone more often. At first it was nothing. We all do it. But then it became constant. A quick glance when she thought I wasn't watching. And the late nights at work, they started once a month, then once a week. I told myself she was just busy, that I should be proud she was working so hard. It's funny. You can live in a house with someone and still be completely blind. If finding the note was the punch to the gut, this was the kick while I was still on the floor. A couple of days after she disappeared, the bank called. The guy on the other end had that overly polite tone they use when they're about to tell you something awful. He asked if I was aware of unusual spending activity on my credit card. I pulled up my account on the computer, and my jaw just locked. Maxed. Out. Not just my card. All of them. Hers too. Trips. Shopping sprees. Hotel stays in cities we never visited together. Dinners at restaurants where the bill alone could have covered our rent. All within the last 2 weeks before she left. The dates lined up almost perfectly with those late nights at work. And then came the overdraft notices, one after another, like someone was deliberately pulling the floor out from under me. I remember staring at the screen, scrolling through the statements, and feeling something inside me shift. The note had been about replacing me. This was different. This was stealing the life we built. The trust I'd given her without a second thought shredded. I sat there at the kitchen table with the laptop glowing in my face, surrounded by stacks of bills I didn't remember piling up. And for the first time, I didn't feel shock. I didn't feel sadness. I felt something darker. I felt used. The money was one thing, but what came next? said it's somewhere deeper. It started with the calls. Friends I hadn't heard from in weeks. Suddenly checking in, they'd ask, "Hey, how are you holding up?" In that soft, careful tone. The kind of voice people use when they already know the bad news, but are waiting for you to confirm it. One of them slipped. She said, "I didn't think you'd want to see the photos." I froze. She quickly changed the subject, but I didn't. Have to ask what photos she meant at work. It was worse. A coworker stopped me in the break room, looking anywhere but my face. "Hey, I think I saw your wife the other night. She was with someone I didn't know if you knew." I could tell he regretted saying it the moment it left his mouth. I just nodded, like it was old news, even though it felt like someone had just ripped open a fresh wound. The worst part? Realizing I was the last person to know my own story, everyone else had already pieced it together. My marriage wasn't just broken, it was public entertainment. I'd become that guy. The one people whispered about at parties, walking down the street one evening, I caught sight of a couple laughing together. For half a second, I imagined it was us. It's the way we used to be. But when they noticed me looking, I turned away quickly, pretending to check my phone. Because in that moment, I wasn't a husband or even a man picking up the pieces. I was humiliated. There's a kind of desperation that doesn't look like screaming or crying. It looks like quiet, relentless motion. For days, I kept calling her phone. Morning, night, in the middle of work. Straight to voicemail every time. I started memorizing the way her recorded voice sounded, and even that began to feel rehearsed. Fake, at night, I'd get in the car and drive, past her favorite cafe. Bookstore, where we used to spend Sunday afternoons. The park bench, where she once told me she couldn't. Imagine her life without me empty. Every place was empty. I reached out to mutual friends. Most didn't answer right away. And when they did, it was the same rehearsed line. "I don't want to get involved," which was code for "I know something, but I'm not telling you." Then I saw it, not directly from her, of course, but through the grapevine of social media. Photos of her in a new city, a different man's arm around her waist. Her hair done in a way I'd never seen. Captions were vague, but the smiles weren't. She looked happy, happier than she'd looked. With me in months, that's the moment the panic turned into something else. Not just, where is she? But who is she now? It felt like she'd shed her old life, our life, without a second thought. And here I was, circling empty streets, still hoping to bump into a ghost. I kept driving until the gas light came on. When I finally parked, I sat there in the dark, my phone in my hand, staring at her contact photo like it might change back into the woman. I knew it didn't. I wish I could say I found out in some dignified way. But no, it was through a tagged photo I wasn't even supposed to see. Someone had posted a group shot from what looked like a rooftop bar. There she was, standing close to him. He couldn't have been more than late 20s, gym-toned, perfect. Teeth, that easy, smug, smile like he'd just won a prize. And maybe he had. The caption didn't say much. But it didn't need to. I stared at it for so long I could describe the shirt he was wearing. The way her hand rested on his chest like it belonged there. I got up and went to the bathroom mirror. For a moment it felt like I was looking at myself for the first time. In months, lines I hadn't noticed before. Hair a little thinner at the temples, shoulders not as broad as they used to be. And the questions started crawling in. Was I boring? Was I unattractive? Or was I just old? I'd always thought love was about history, about the life you build together. But maybe, to her, it was about novelty, about excitement. About someone who could make her feel young again. Or maybe, just someone who was young. I tried to tell myself it wasn't about me, that she was chasing some shallow fantasy that would burn out in months. But in that quiet, staring into my own eyes, I couldn't shake the feeling that maybe I'd been replaced, not just in her heart, but in her world. Weeks blurred together. I stopped keeping track of days. The only clock I had was the stack of unpaid bills on the kitchen table. Growing taller every time I looked, the fridge was almost empty. A carton of milk long past its date. Half a jar of pickles. Leftover takeout I didn't remember ordering. Cooking felt pointless. It's like setting a table for someone who was never coming home. Nights were the worst. I'd sit on the couch with a TV on, not really watching. The flicker of light would fill the room, but not me. Instead, I'd scroll through old photos on my phone. Vacations, birthdays, random little selfies we took in grocery store aisles. Every image felt like a lie. Now, that's when the real rot set in, questioning everything. I started replaying conversations in my head. Moments where she'd held my face in her hands and said she loved me. Moments I thought were real, and I'd wonder, was she lying then? Or did she just change, which was worse? Some nights I'd catch myself reading our old text messages like they belonged to strangers. And maybe they did. We and those words didn't exist anymore. It's strange. Heartbreak isn't just about pain. Sometimes it's about nothing that heavy. Dull nothing that settles in your chest until you're not even sure you want to feel better. It was a Tuesday, I think. Days didn't matter much by then. I was sitting in the same dent on the couch I'd been sinking into for weeks when my oldest friend showed up. Uninvited, he didn't bother with small talk. He just stood there in the doorway, looking at me like I was some half-finished version of myself. Finally, he sat down across from me and said, "You can't keep living like this." I wanted to argue, say something sarcastic. But the truth is, I didn't have the energy. He kept talking. Not in that pep talk way, but in that blunt. I single quotes v-known-you-since-high-school way. He reminded me that she'd left, that she'd made her choice, and that every minute I spent stuck here replaying. It was another minute she still owned me. It hit me then. No, she's not coming back. And even if she did, I wouldn't want her. Not the version of her who could do what she did. That realization didn't feel triumphant. It felt still, like I'd been holding my breath for months and finally let it out. The next morning, I opened the blinds. The light hurt my eyes, but it was real. I took the trash out, my first time stepping outside in days. The air was crisped, and it smelled faintly of rain. People passed by, living their lives completely unaware of mine, and for the first time that didn't feel like a loss. It felt like a chance it didn't happen all at once. There was no movie montage, where I woke up one morning magically fixed. It was slow, messy, uneven. The first thing I did was close our joint accounts. Seeing her name next to mine on anything still felt like a wound that hadn't healed. Then I started tackling the debt, one card at a time. Every time I made a payment, no matter how small, it felt like taking back a piece of myself. I picked up hobbies I'd abandoned, dusted off the old guitar, went for short jogs around the block, lungs burning but alive, started saying yes. When friends invited me out, even if I didn't feel ready, some nights I'd still come home to the quiet and feel that old weight pressing in. But then I'd open the fridge and see it full for the first time in months. I'd look at a paid bill and remember that I did that me. And then one morning, while brushing my teeth, I caught my own reflection smiling, a real smile, not the forced one I'd been faking for everyone else. It startled me, but in a good way. I wasn't the man I was before she left. Maybe that was the point. It had been months. Long enough that the sound of her name didn't sting anymore. Life wasn't perfect, but it was mine. Then one night my phone buzzed. Her name lit up. The screen. For a second, my chest tightened. Old reflex. I opened the message. "Hope you're doing well. No apology, no explanation, just that." I stared at it for a moment, waiting for something, anger, sadness, anything. But all I felt was stillness. I smiled. Not the bitter kind, but the kind you give yourself when you know you've already won by walking away. And then I deleted it. No reply. No need. Because here's the thing. Sometimes people leave, and it's the best thing they ever did for you. I stepped outside that evening, the air warm with the tail end of summer. The street was bathed in gold, the sky streaked with orange and pink. I walked without a destination, just letting the light fall over me, and for the first time in a long time, I wasn't walking away from something. I was walking toward whatever came next.